So we're going to move on to our guest from the Rundown Live, Mike Paczesny. Mike, how's it going, man?
What's up, gentlemen? How you guys doing this evening?
Hello, sir.
Hello, Mike.
Good to be on, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Good guy.
That was a pain in the ass with four of us talking.
That's all right.
Yeah, I have a co-host, and I was wondering, like, I asked Chris, I was like, did you guys want to talk to Kristan, too? And he's like, I don't know, man. We already got a bunch of hosts, so it's going to be hard with just you. So I appreciate you at least got one of us on the show, man.
For sure, man. Yeah, good to get you on. It was, we hadn't, well, like I told you on your show, we hadn't done a show for a while. And then after I got on your show, I was like, oh, man, I got to get back on the radio. Been so long. So, man, you kind of pushed me to get back on schedule. Mike, thanks.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, I guess that's kind of what I did this for, you know. I wanted to get involved. Others kind of motivated me through YouTube and other means to get involved, and that's what I started doing. And surprisingly, I've only been doing this for a couple of years, and a lot of people have told me that, like, you know, watching the little show Out of the Basement, like, has motivated them to start their own websites and radio shows. So it's actually cool that so many people are doing this. And I know we had Chris on, we kind of talked about that, like, how everybody's kind of doing their own thing, but it's a really cool thing that everybody's talking about real issues. That's what it's all about.
Mm.
Right.
Yep. So, like, you put out a lot of material. How much time out of your day do you spend doing this? Because, I mean, it's great. I'm just amazed how much you're able to put out.
It's like my job now, man. Like, I had a regular job, like, most of my life. You know, I had a CDL. I was like a truck driver, garbage man, all kinds of stuff like that. And then now I'm pretty much dedicated to the information and the show. Like, that's my job. I work all night, through the night, reading news wires and scheduling guests and stuff. So it's pretty much like a 20-hour-a-day thing and a couple hours of sleep. You know what I mean?
Well, man, thank you.
It's not, you know, it's not as bad as it seems. Like, it's not, I'm staying up 20 hours every day, but there's definitely been nights like that, like last month with Ferguson, where, like, I was doing a lot online, like setting up live streams and, you know, stuff so people can see all this information in one spot. And I know a lot of people take that for granted, but, you know, we need to bring all these live streams and all these sources of information to one spot so people can see it all and get it all different perspectives from one spot, because a lot of times, you know, people get cocky with their brand and they don't want to share with each other and they don't want to post each other's articles and stuff like that.
Right.
And I'm not like that. I'm all about sharing stories and getting other radio hosts and websites on the show so people can showcase what they are doing.
Right. Good deal. Yeah, I was completely about what you're saying at one point. I made a video about it, how, like, people just aren't, you know, supporting each other that way. We all feel like, you know, I'm only going to scratch your back if you scratch mine, and that's just not how it should be. You know, so it seems
good. Like much more competition,
right.
You know, about the money. And I'm not saying, you know, it's expensive to run a radio show. You guys probably know, to host a website, if you have like a podcast app, all that stuff costs money, and, you know, people don't want to pay for this kind of information. And, you know, I feel, you know, like we shouldn't charge them for that. You know, I'm not going to, like, do like a John B. Wells and charge people a monthly fee to hear our radio show. I want people to hear it. It should be free, but that's why you got to, like, sacrifice Google ads and have sponsors, because, you know, there's no way to do this stuff for free, because all this stuff costs money.
Good call. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, some people are completely
Like
against ads, and I just don't understand why. I mean, it does cost money, and I mean, the ads, it's not like they're really getting in the way. It's not a huge inconvenience. It's not an inconvenience at all, really, unless you have a really bad computer, in which case, good luck browsing most websites on the internet.
We've dealt with that before.
Yeah.
It's like
you got to encourage people to donate too. Donate to these places. If you're getting information from a certain website or a podcast or any of these.
For now, though, donate to that legal defense fund because we got to sue the FDA. We really do. Seriously.
I mean, isn't it weird though? Like, it's always about the money. That's the kind of crappy thing about all this. It takes money to produce the information. A lot of people start on YouTube and, they don't get the respect they should because they don't have a good mic or they don't have a good camera. But, they have good information, and it's not really fair, to the kids that are just, starting up talking about freedom with a webcam and nobody wants to watch it because they don't have fancy graphics or a fancy web page. So don't get discouraged, with me talking about, it costs money to do all this stuff. I don't want people to, shut down their webcams all of a sudden. But just know that, the more professional you become in what you're doing, there are some fees behind the scenes.
So, Mike, what is, there's a lot of topics you got to have your mind wrapped around right now. What's, the top, say, one or two concerns that is really itching to talk about?
Well, we've been talking to a lot of guests lately, so we haven't really stressed a lot of the things going on right now, which are like the Ebola crisis. Obviously, we have ISIS and that propaganda nightmare. And these are some things that, we would focus on normally on the Rundown Live if we didn't have a guest. So, obviously, the Ebola thing, that's interesting. I have some concerns whether or not it's even legitimate, why troops are involved now. There's a new case in Dallas, apparently. So, everybody, hand over your children to the doctors for the vaccines. Yeah. And when the MPs come around, just accept the vaccine because, it's going to be mandatory. And if you don't get the vaccine, everybody's going to think you're a conspiracy theorist.
Right. They're going to probably put you in a FEMA camp or whatever the hell they got planned.
And, that sounds extreme, but in a sense, it's reality. And, obviously they're making a big deal out of this. So I don't know if it's to distract people from what's going on in Russia with the Ukraine situation, or if it's to distract people from the ISIS and the bombing of Syria and what's going on in Iraq now with more soldiers being sent there. Wait, I thought that war was over, guys. Wasn't that, Operation Successful? Obama said, that's gone. Iraqi freedom, it's all good, right?
Well, it is crazy that we're sending 3,000 troops, or that we already sent 3,000 troops to West Africa for this Ebola thing. I mean, that's just asking for trouble right there. I mean, obviously someone said they're going to get infected and just bring it back here. What are they thinking?
Well, that's what they're thinking.
It's suicide. It's like they want us to become infected.
That is what they're thinking.
They clearly want this to happen. That seems to be the intention, at the very least.
And that's something we talk about. Who is they? Who is the they that wants this to happen? And we really have to focus on that because it's becoming more and more evident. We like to say things like Illuminati and the elite to describe these people. But these people are really starting to come out of the darkness now. Right. These really super elites that run the world and are, funding these operations, whether it's a Bill Gates or a guy like Kurzweil at Google, the Rockefellers, you got guys like Kissinger. These guys are the ones that are really pulling strings. Even if you look to the situations like ISIS, who do we have a few months ago meeting with them in Syria? Oh, it's McCain. And now it's a big problem. It's interesting that these guys are all tied to all these situations all the time.
Ted Turner. Do you think
always follow the money?
You think this could be linked to the Georgia Guidestones that came out a few days back before the outbreak, as far as it being 2014?
Yes, and did you see that someone actually removed that?
Someone removed it?
Yeah, that's what our last Thursday's guest was telling us, that they removed it,
Wow.
So somebody put the year 2014 into it. This was probably last week sometime, and then I just heard a few days ago, or maybe yesterday, that stone was now removed. And, when did that happen, I guess?
Well, dude, I'll be honest. I had a fantasy as soon as I saw that about just going down there and just taking a sledgehammer to it. And so maybe someone did that. I don't know. Maybe someone got to it before me. I wouldn't have the balls
that's on
to do that.
City property. The city takes care of that, by the way.
I'm sure they have cameras all over it too. I mean,
they do, right? Ever since it was vandalized, so obviously they know who took the stone out and who put the stone in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I would not have the balls to do it. I could not do it, dude. I would not have the balls to do it. I don't know.
It's definitely strange that they would even insert the stone and remove it just to kind of touch on that. Just think about that. Like, what was the purpose of that even?
Right. Yeah, we talked about that last week.
It's creepy. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, Ebola and Syria. That seems to be the two topics right now.
Yeah, that's like, some of the major things going on, and then obviously we had the Ferguson police state stuff really on display a lot last month. And I mean, these are just kind of the standard things that we like to talk about and cover and let people know about. But obviously I like other issues, like I get into transhumanism and all the robotics, like the K5 night scope that's going to be patrolling the street. It's like looks like R2-D2, and he shocks you if you try to tip him over.
So you're knowledgeable about the singularity that we're supposed to experience in our lifetime.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome stuff. Are you hopeful about it? I kind of am. I don't know.
Well, it depends what you mean by hopeful. I mean, because I think that this is a technology that is reserved for the elite, and I view us as like a citizen slave class. Whether or not you want to accept that, is up to you. But I think that singularity type technology is going to be reserved for
it's not meant for
super
us.
rich, right? But I think it's real, and I think it's coming, and I think that the average public will see a lot of things from that. Like, we're already seeing these suits and more and more virtual reality developing. I mean, that's obviously the way it's going. More and more implants for health-related stuff, whether it's RFID or other types of monitors. I mean, this is going to be the way it is. We're merging with machines, and I don't think we have much of a choice about that. So I definitely think it's going to happen for sure.
I don't know. My cousin loves the idea. He can't wait to have little microchips hooked up into his brain to be connected to the internet, and he wants to become like a walking nanobot or whatever, dude. He's crazy.
Well, you think about it, isn't technology just really a result of humans? Like honey is produced by bees, humans produce technology, and isn't it just like a natural progression that we would just merge with something that we created, even though we didn't physically produce, the materials it's made out of, we would still use it. I'm not saying bees become honey, but I use that as an example,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is a natural, cycle. And some of it will be useful, and some of it not so much. But.
Well, I think it could be great, but as Mike said, I mean, we have a very corrupt group of psychopaths that make the decisions on the planet. I refer to them as the oligarch, and their families have been in power for a long time, I'm sure. And as long as they are in control of the world, I can't exactly be too confident, too optimistic about what they have in store with us. I mean, they're going to use any technology against us, and that would include whatever comes from the singularity, I would think. Just as I can't ever be cool with, the idea of having a one-world government is, to me, it makes sense. It's great, but as long as these psychopaths are in charge, and it's not going to be a good idea. So it's obviously a very bad idea until, power changes hands, until, like, good people.
It will always be a bad idea.
Well, I don't know, dude. Like, if there was an actual revolution of the, on the level that this planet has never seen, because we've never really had a revolution that truly ended well. I mean, you can say the American Revolution did, but I would argue that and say no.
There's also never been a global revolution, and that's something that's coming right now.
Right. Well, it's happening one way or another, yeah. That's the thing. I mean, in what way is it going to go? I mean, as long as the psychopaths run things, I don't think it's going to be very good. And I don't see how they're not going to willingly give up their power, and I don't think the population is going to wisen up enough to realize that it's the people behind the scenes that count, not the presidents and prime ministers that they put up in front of us, because they're all patsies. To me, they're just all actors and just representatives of the oligarch. And they mess up, they make all the mistakes, and everything gets blamed on them. And then the oligarch starts off with a clean slate, installing a new president, and so apparently people just forgive and forget, and we're just naive, and we think, oh, everything's going to be okay, a new president. Oh, great, Jeb Bush is now our next president. Wonderful. And
he's a Republican. You guys don't like that? What do you mean? Come on, conservatism. It's great. I mean, Constitution, right?
He's going to be the next president, I'm pretty certain. They got to keep it in the family. I mean, they got their own little... they got, what is this, like 20?
Well, what about Hillary? He has to be president. I mean, I'm sorry.
She might end up being, yeah. I mean, Jeb Bush is still young. He'll have his chance. He'll be next. So.
Not that it even matters. I mean, it's clearly a puppet dictator position, all for elite status and nothing more. You're going down in the history book. You're not really controlling anything. Clearly, the financial controllers are manipulating most of the world right now, and that's why we're in so many foreign wars, and that's why you see all these countries being invaded. It's really about the money, and we already touched on that.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case. I mean, I think we spoke to Lee Camp about this, because his argument was it was all about the money, and I said, well, yeah, it is, but these people, these banksters who run these central banks and their families, they already have all the money in the world. It's more about control at this point. I mean, they just use the money as a form of control.
Right, and I think you are right about that, and that's why we see the eugenics part of their plan with the depopulation, Agenda 21, minimizing, the use of federal land that's owned by the state or the king or whatever you want to call it, and moving everybody into these urban megacities until eventually, they either starve or die off or whatever, because you're going to have to face healthcare panels, and you're never going to be able to get your transhumanist part to live forever, because only the elite will be able to get right in and get that, because they have the things that they need to pay for that, unlike the rest of America, which is hoping Obamacare will pay for their health care, and it's free, right? So it's all good.
Yeah, free on the taxpayer or future generations, right?
Yeah, like Social Security, it's all just going to be fine, guys. We'll just, what we'll do? We'll just raise the debt ceiling. That's all we got to do.
That's all you got to do.
Right. And it's interesting. Numbers. We've never had this situation. Normally, I would say, we were doomed to face hyperinflation years ago, but we have the military backing out the dollar. So this is like unprecedented ground. We don't know how long it's going to last, as far as the dollar, the worth of the dollar goes. I guess as long as China and Russia continue to play ball, once they,
well, what about that Chinese revolution that's going on, and why isn't China putting the hammer down? You have to ask, what's really gone over there? What's really going on, and who's behind that? There's a lot of industry in China being affected right now. Their schools shut down. I saw the people have been on the freeway for 7 days or something now.
Right.
So it's that's going to affect the American economy. If people don't think that, they need to check how the world economy works, because it's all connected at this point. So, when the Chinese economy crashes, that's going to affect America. And people like to pretend oh, no, the dollar, it's separate, da-da-da-da. But that's clearly not the case anymore. So I think, people have to pay attention to stuff like that. You don't see a lot about the Chinese revolution on CNN or any mainstream news, and not even on alternative radio or news, because I don't think a lot of people even really know what's going on. There's just a lot of people in the street unhappy, and I think that's really going on all over the world right now.
Mm-hmm. Most people probably can't even identify China on a map. I saw earlier today, seriously, what was it? Did you see this? It was drone footage of the protest in China. Dude, there has to be 100,000 people there. It's everywhere there. It's it's crazy.
I was just watching that.
Yeah, I saw some pictures. It was.
It's crazy how many people were there. I mean, how are they?
it's going on and nobody's really talking about those.
Right. It's complete blackout.
They can't do what they did with Tiananmen Square. There's just too many people. I mean, how could they possibly deal with that, even if they wanted to?
You have to wonder, what is the influence? Is there American influence? You know, with all these spring movements where, you know, whatever various color revolution, whatever you want to call it, you know, is this just another one finally occurring in China? And this is really just all about money again, where they're controlling the economy, shutting down industry. I mean, and they've attempted to do this a lot in America. It just hasn't caught on. And whether it's Americans don't care or they're lazy or whatever, they don't seem to take to the streets the way that some of these other countries really have.
Good call.
You have to be like highly motivated, and it just doesn't happen. And then maybe they'll go out for a day, and it's just like it's like a fun thing. Like, oh, I went to the protest today, and now I'm done.
Met some new people. Made a couple new friends.
So I'm just reading a response here on Facebook. We've been having a debate over the Ebola pandemic for the last hour up on Derek Brose's page here. I can't stand Facebook. I just get caught up on this crap too often.
Can't stand it, but he's on it all the time.
Yeah. I can't.
It's necessary for what we're doing, although I notice, just looking at numbers from like behind the scenes and from the website, Facebook reach is completely non-existent. Where it used to be is no longer there. Like, we used to be able to reach thousands and thousands of people a day on Facebook. Now we're lucky to reach hundreds. Twitter is not really like that. We still reach thousands of people on Twitter, Reddit, other sites. But when Facebook, you post an article or a status update, you're not even reaching your friends. You have 1,000, 2,000 friends. You're not even hitting them. You're hitting maybe 20 people tops.
No, we spoke about this in detail last week, dude. You're right. It's about a tenth of what it was. A friend of mine's page went from 16 million reach a week down to 50,000 people a week per reach. 50,000. It wasn't 200,000 like I said before.
I figured out I was getting like 3% of the amount of people, which is obvious. And, you know, unless you want to pay, you can pay.
It's blatant censorship. It is completely political. It's not just about money. It's complete political censorship.
Well, right, and if you post about something that's like an accepted topic, your reach is much further. So, for instance, Kristan, my co-host, Kristan Harris, wrote an article about The Purge. It was a movie that came out a few months ago, and there was a scare here in Wisconsin where it was actually a hoax online. A kid made a meme that said, "The Purge is coming to a city near you," and the police got a hold of it and thought that people were actually going to go out and commit crimes because the movie was about a day that everybody could go out and commit crimes. So we wrote an article, put this up on the site. I wasn't really happy about it, not something we always like to put on the website, but we put it up, and what I see is tons and tons of traffic because it was like an accepted topic through Facebook because it was The Purge. And I don't know if it's because the movie studio had paid for, you know, that to be an accepted term or what, but it's one of those things that just it showed how it broke through. It broke through that analytical censorship.
Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, as long as you're posting simple stuff that isn't controversial, you're going to get a huge reach. Huge reach.
Yeah, you post kitties and puppies and your children that look like never mind, but you know what I'm saying? So those are going to get tons of likes, but you post a meme about being an anarchist and making fun of a status, and you're going to get like 3 people to see it. Right.
That's how it is now.
Well, like Chris was saying before, you get your whole site tagged, and so that it doesn't matter what you're posting, that it's just not getting a reach.
They like red flag it or whatever.
They do. Right? They do. And if you share that on if you share from your page, if your page has been flagged and you share onto a fan page that hasn't been flagged, then that completely ruins and devastates the page you share to, no matter what it posted prior, and it permanently damages it, permanently flags that page as well. It's crazy.
It seems like there's only a few really successful alternative news Facebook pages that aren't completely like BS, like the Anti-Media, Cop Block, that are still really successful in their reach. But, you know, some of the smaller pages just aren't getting the reach that they should. Like, for instance, our page only has about 4,000 likes, and an average post reaches maybe 100 people if we're lucky. So, I mean, obviously that's not the platform that we should be spending most of our time on, but yet most of us do.
Right. I mean, especially the people who have devoted all their time so far with Facebook and developing their fan pages. It's really hard to just give up on that, you know.
But the interaction is still there for the people that are dedicated. That is the benefit of Facebook, and the direct communication. I can say message Jeff or Chris or one of you guys directly if you're on my friends list. That's cool. That's a good thing. But, you know, the idea of being able to reach everybody was cool about Facebook, and that's gone, you know. And that was what was great about Facebook when everybody switched from MySpace, because MySpace didn't have that central status hub either. They had like a bulletin board, but it wasn't as good. That's why people really liked Facebook, because they could see what was going on with everybody. And now that's really cut down and gone. And I think we all know why. It's become about metadata and spying on what you're eating and what you're watching on TV, and apparently listening to what songs you're listening to in the background. But don't worry about that. It doesn't hear what you're saying. It's just listening to the music. Which is true, by the way. You guys, I'm sure you heard that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would like to, I don't know. Twitter was always complicated for me. I just gave up on it once I got my foot in the door with Facebook. But now that Facebook's gone, I'm going to have to look back at Twitter probably.
Let me tell you. Go ahead, sorry.
I forget to get on Twitter. Honestly, I don't know.
I started using it again. And it's really worth it, guys. It really is. Once I started using Twitter now, it's like the interaction is there again. People are seeing you if you're tagging them. You know what I mean? And people are actually interactive on Twitter, whereas Facebook really is just a dying social network site, just like MySpace. You know, it's just becoming that time. I saw there's another new social network site people are talking about. It's called ELO.
Yeah. Yep. They have a lot of improving to do, it appears, though, first.
I have not seen it, but I know it's invite only, and I know a lot of trendies have been talking about it. I haven't had a chance to actually check it out.
It was started by drag queens or something.
I just heard about that today.
Great.
I didn't hear that.
By drag queens?
Bitcoin. Bitcoin was started by drag queens as well, just for the record.
Yeah, right.
Don't look that up, by the way.
No.
No, just go share it.
I think we would have heard of that, by now. Classic. Oh.
That is funny.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, any other news? Anything planned for the near future?
Well, I mean, we're just hitting it hard with the show 5 days a week. I mean, if you guys want to check out the show, it's Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Central, and we do it regardless. We're there, Monday through Friday, whether we have a guest or not. A lot of times we do open lines and stuff, but it's not just the radio show. That was one thing, but we really started to build a community. I saw other groups like the Houston Free Thinkers and We Are Change Colorado, and these organizations that were like really building truth-based communities where they were having like potlucks that were GMO free, and this kind of stuff really appealed to me. And I thought, we should, form a similar group here. So we started a group called Waking Up Wisconsin, and that's kind of what we've been doing. We started a magazine. So we have a physical propaganda magazine that carries a lot of the articles and interviews we do online, but now we can put it at gas stations and drop it off at people's work. And it seems like a lot of older people pick up the magazine and like to read it. And the internet might not be around forever, so we have some physical propaganda that we're working on. And a lot of people think a magazine may be a step back, but we thought it was a good thing because a lot of people like to have this kind of stuff right in their hand.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
I agree.
Cool.
The cool thing too about the magazine, it's high quality. It's not, InfoWars put out a magazine, and we were actually working on it at a similar time, and they're really high quality magazines. It's a cool thing to just be able to hold, and it's free. We're not charging anything for this, by the way. So, we got to find sponsors and do fundraisers to pay for this kind of stuff, and then we just give it out because it's about the information.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
So a lot of people like to, talk about, oh, you're doing this for the money because you got a few Google ads on your articles. And it's right. I wish people really understood it's not about that. Yes, we do need income because this is my only job, but it's not about the money. It's not something that, is driving me to do this. Obviously the information comes first. That's obviously something I want to stress because, through doing this, people have had problems with, oh, why do you have ads in your show? Well, why don't you move the ads to the end? And, you gotta address some of these things sometimes.
Well, people think that it doesn't cost anything to live, apparently. Apparently, we're in some sort of utopian society where money doesn't exist. And it's what are
Well,
people...
it doesn't if you got a food card, apparently. You just gotta live off the government. You can eat lobster every night. It's great.
I guess.
I don't know how you live unless you get government rent too, but all that's going to go away. So if you have it, more power to you. I'm an anarchist. I say bleed it dry, go for it. But what I'm warning you is get a skill because it's not going to be there forever.
Do you think that are you one of the people that say that living off the states just kind of it's almost a benefit because it just will help deteriorate it quicker?
Absolutely. I don't consider myself aligned to the United States as far as, they're my best friend. They've done a lot of things to hurt us as citizens, and they don't have our best interests at heart. So, clearly using the Federal Reserve note as a system, infinite debt ceiling raising, and all this stuff, this is not good for the average American. This is only helping the super rich and the super elite. So, if you can take your scraps, your table scraps, $200 a month or whatever they throw you before this thing all falls apart, I'm not going to, be mad at you.
Yeah.
Right.
And although some people would like to argue that would be the problem with this country, I'd like to argue that the problem is much, much deeper and it stems much further back than that.
Oh, I would agree with that. Of course it does. But I don't know. At the same time, I don't, developing a socialistic government at the same time. But I've heard that argument before that living off the state will just help deteriorate it faster.
Right, and it's not like you should just rely on the government because that's a bad decision. There's a difference between relying on it and using it to your advantage because they use you, so why not you use them? Every day we have to go out and deal with road pirates trying to get in our pockets. We're supposed to be able to freely travel. I'm not driving commercially. I can be pulled over at any time, harassed if my car's unlicensed or I'm unlicensed or I don't have insurance. We're under constant attack all day. We're being spied on at all times. We can't plant certain plants. We can't capture rainwater because evil terrorists capture rainwater in buckets and giant barrels in their backyard. But dear Lord, if you use the food stamp program, you're just a drain on America, and you're an evil, evil man and an evil person. I couldn't subscribe to that. There's too much behind the scenes going on to demonize people that are poor.
What about paying taxes? How do you feel about that right now?
Personally, I wish I would have never paid taxes in my life. And, I'll say this on the air. I'm thinking about not paying taxes ever again. Doesn't mean I will or I won't, but, I'm thinking about it. And the further this thing goes, I'm not a millionaire. What are they going to get me on? A couple grand in taxes? I mean, how much jail time could that really be, guys?
Right, exactly. I think I'm just following your lead. If they go after me, they'll go after me, and I'll just pay it then or something. I don't know.
I can tell you from firsthand experience. I'm dealing with it right now as we speak, not paying taxes, and boy, they really frown on that.
They went after you, seriously, Mark?
Yeah. I just had my wages attached. They took over half my check. Like, I got it squared away now, so I'm on like this payment plan. But I wanted to, just say fuck you guys.
That's amazing.
I'm not paying you nothing, And,
pretty soon, if you don't pay, they'll just take your house, right? And that's the new thing with all this new technology. I heard now the new cars, if you don't pay your car payment, you just can't use it. It'll just shut down. So you know what? You don't pay your $300 car bill, you can't use it. It's you better pay the bank.
Right. No, you're right.
Right now, my only income is from the books that I'm selling on Amazon. And recently they shut down my account, forcing me to give them my Social Security number. So they will be reporting that to the IRS. I'm still unsure if I want to actually comply and pay that at the end of the year. But
well, clearly you're a terrorist. I mean, that's
right.
I mean, you wrote a book. I mean, I don't even know how a terrorist could do that, but geez, I mean, you didn't give them your Social Security number. That's clear. You're listed on the MIAC report. I'm sure you wear blue jeans at one point, so you're a terrorist.
Beautiful. Wow. So yeah, I mean, how about
sounds
that?
right to me.
Fuck you.
Yeah. Knowing Jeff, you're probably right.
He definitely wore blue jeans at one time.
Oh yeah, I wore them yesterday.
Classic terrorist profile. Although apparently terrorists in Syria like to wear Ninja Foot Clan masks. That's the new thing.
Yes.
They look like they're basically waiting for the shredder to give them their orders.
So how do you feel about the whole Islam threat? Because a lot of people are worried.
I am not worried because I think that's a lot of propaganda. Now, is there radical Islam? There is. Say that again?
You're not worried about your head?
Well, my head's pretty big.
You're going to be beheaded. They're going to come and take your head off.
Yeah. Can they fly?
Can they fly?
Yes. Do they have magic carpets?
Right.
I have to wonder how they would get to Wisconsin, and I'd have to wonder, how that would go down. I just don't believe the threat is real as far as these people are coming here to behead us. Now, I saw the workplace incident. I see the propaganda. But this kind of thing happens. I see, they want you to believe that it's worse than it actually is. Now, there's a radical Islamic threat in the world, yes. But there's a Christian threat that's radical in this world. Yep. And there's all kinds of threats that exist in this world. Why is this one being magnified? And you have to look that obviously they have some interest in Syria and that region. They want to split up Iraq. They haven't finished the job there, but the destabilization is part of it. And, obviously this ties into Russia and Ukraine. This whole area is being targeted right now. We have the Chinese revolution going on. So, there's a lot of action all over the East right now. So there's, this is what's going on. This is what's going on, and the Muslim beheading threat is just a distraction. It's like, be afraid of the Ninja Clan and worry about hiding under the table because you might be beheaded by your coworker who wants you to convert to Islam because Islam is scary and everything else is fine.
Well, I came upon an interesting idea the other day. If you think about it, Islam is 600 years younger than Christianity, and it was only 600 years ago that the Catholics more like, were doing the whole Inquisition and Crusades thing. So it makes sense that the Muslims are just now entering the Dark Ages.
Right, and that's a great point. It's the Islamic Dark Ages, and they could view the West as the enemy of what they're crusading against, because we as the West have been persecuting them for a long time, bombing their country.
They have every right to be pissed off. They have every right.
It's blowback. It's blowback.
Oh, yeah.
Ron Paul said it best. This was going to happen. Yep. We all knew it. They knew it, and now it's happening. And we just happen to fund them to make it worse. We send them fancy Toyotas that are militarized, and we give them fancy weapons, and we say, oh, my God, we have to kill these guys that we gave them all the training and weaponry.
I mean, think about it. 1950s, we changed the government of Iran, put in the Shah, and he ended up killing more than 50,000 political, dissidents, turned that country into hell, just because the British wanted their oil companies to be maintained. So we helped out the British, and then we funded both sides of the Iraq-Iranian war, which ended up costing about 1.5 million Iranians and Iraqis lives. And then we ended up imposing sanctions that killed more than 1 million Iraqis, women and children. So, of course, they're going to be pissed off. I mean, when you kill millions of people over there, you're going to create enemies. So,
they hate us for freedom. What are you talking about?
I mean, I'm pretty certain if we didn't do any of that, they would be leaving us alone.
How did that ever get by? That they were attacking us for our freedoms. How did anybody ever buy that?
Because we're stupid as hell, man.
13 years ago. It still boggles my mind.
Right. The internet didn't exist. Let me tell you, once the internet got popular, that changed everything. It really introduced the hive mind, and people started using it against the system. The internet was developed as a government program. They never thought that people would use the tool to actually figure out the control mechanism. And they thought that it was too big at that point anyway for people to do anything about it. And they might be true with all the Snowden stuff and the NSA spying. They could be right. We could be in the grid for good. But the point is now with the internet we know. And that's why they're trying to censor the internet so much now. That's why shows like this, shows like The Rundown Live, others, there's so many, they're so important. This pirate radio, getting the truth out, real debate. You're never going to get this on an FCC radio station. It's not going to happen. This is the way to get real information out in the real world now. The internet has changed everything.
It's an understatement what you said, because it's so important to hear different perspectives, and the mainstream media just doesn't do that. They're not giving us everything. We need to have everything on the table so we can contemplate it. And I believe that humans are responsible enough to handle that information. No matter how crazy or wacky it sounds, we can still contemplate it and consider it and factor it into what our views are. So it is important. It's beyond important. And we're screwed the day the internet goes down. I don't know what we're going to do at that point.
Well, and one major difference is who's paying you guys? Who pays me to show up 5 days a week? Who pays you guys to even do the show? Nobody. You know what I mean? Right. Versus a Fox News, MSNBC, these people are being paid to do a job, read a script, be an actor, That's the difference. That's not real. When you watch The Daily Show, is there a little truth? Is it funny? But it's not real. You can't go after certain sponsors. You can't attack certain organizations that may be corrupt because, overall you have a corporation that has to adhere to sponsorships, much like Bud Light and others stopped the NFL recently from having domestic violence participants like Adrian Peterson and others. They're like, no, if they're playing, we're pulling our sponsorship. It shows how much money controls what people do, whether it's information or a game or otherwise.
Oh, sure. Oh, it's truly 1984 in that aspect.
It literally is 1984.
You know what this reminds me of? That JFK speech, and I'm adding it to the intro of one of my my videos here. So it says, and I know you all remember this. It was a secret society speech. He says, "No one should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up mistakes, or withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. Our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts they need. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, for I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I do not only not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. Without debate, without criticism, no administration or country can succeed and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon made it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically. And it says not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, and to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, and sometimes even anger public opinion." That's what it's about. You have to tell people what they don't want to hear, really. You have to be controversial, and it's tough love.
You got to shake them out of that box, right? They love that comfort of that false paradigm, that fake world that, we all lived in it. I'm sure all of you guys lived in that world before you got to this point. I know I did. But, sometimes people have to have a little shake before they realize it. You're never going to convince anybody, but maybe just that little rattle of the cage will get them to realize that they're in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, dude, I'll tell you what. 17 was when I woke up, and it was because I saw some UFOs. And at that point, you had the X-Files and all that crap, and people were making fun of people who claimed to see UFOs and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, well, obviously they're trying to mold public opinion and to make fun of people like us. So that at
I'm
that point,
definitely with that. I definitely think there's some stuff
Something's
out there. And
something's
hidden history. Ancient history is hidden. Don't believe, the 2,000-year story. You know what I mean? There's a lot that's being hidden.
But, dude, even before when I was 17, I knew something was wrong, I always felt like something was just not right with the world and with everything. So.
All you have to do is look up. I mean, anybody that can't go outside at night and look up in the sky, if you're lucky enough to be able to see the stars, if your city's not completely, polluted, that is enough for me to know. I know that there's more out there and we're being lied to. It's as simple as that.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I'm going to do, dude. I know I said I'm too pussy to go down to the Georgia Guidestones and start wrecking it with a sledgehammer. Not that I could probably even put a dent in it anyway if I wanted to. But one thing I will do is I will be making videos. I have all my thoughts written down, and I'm going to do this twice a week, and I'm going to put actual cures out there, and I'm going to battle the FDA, and I'm expecting to eventually be locked up over it. So screw it. I mean, that's the way I'm going to go out,
Especially using that terrorist language, cure. I mean, we're talking a bunch of terrorists here. I can't believe this.
That's going to be my act of civil disobedience. And for all the people who think that you have to go to rallies and you have to do speeches and everything to be a real activist, you're wrong. You can make videos and have the same effect. In fact,
it's division of labor.
Right. And you can have just as much of an effect, if not more. Because those videos, once you make them, they're on there permanently, as long as YouTube doesn't shut you down. But I mean, they're up there for eternity, theoretically. I mean, so that's the idea. Get it out. I mean, if you post something on Facebook, if you just post something on Facebook, it's eventually going to be forgotten and lost, and no one's going to hear it. So that's why I make videos. That's why you're supposed to do stuff like that, and radio shows. So,
and websites, write articles.
That's right.
Those kind of things are more likely to stick around. That's why I said we started the magazine, because then, we take the articles from online and we put them into a physical magazine, and that even is seen by a totally different audience. The same people that go to the site may never even look at the magazine, and vice versa. So it's definitely interesting. And you touched on division of labor. Everybody is good at something. So if you want to get involved, you can. You just got to take what you're good at, whether it's music, working on websites, writing, drawing, art, whatever it is. You're good at something. Use that skill and get involved doing that. Approach people. Approach you guys. Do you need a new logo? Do you need help editing video? I mean, people don't realize how easy it is to just get started. And once you do, just keep at it. Just keep working. That's another thing. Once people get involved in whatever you want to call this, alternative media, in the truth, whatever you want to call it, people get burnt out because they really hit it hard and they kind of burn themselves out. And you kind of just got to pace yourself. This is a long battle. You know what I mean? Prepare this to be the rest of your life, because you're going to be for the truth forever. I mean, unless you guys are planning on going back and kicking back and watching some Hollywood movies and relaxing and watching some propaganda commercials and intaking some nice GMOs and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, the occasional.
Not saying that I never do, but you know what I mean.
No,
at least you're aware.
The occasional pizza with bovine growth hormone. Hell yeah.
Right. You got to survive.
Right.
We're not that fancy. We got to eat a Jack's every now and then.
I got a cheesesteak pizza in the fridge right now, or the freezer. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a design system. I mean, that's the way it is. We're faced with that. If you don't have the dollars to pay for that organic, healthy food, you're kind of screwed. That's one of those things. But I did want to let you guys know I have to head out here soon, so I want to make sure people, if they want to check out the show, the website, rundownlive.com or therundownlive.com. My radio show is 5 days a week at 8 p.m. Central. You guys can check it out on Encores, on YouTube. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at rundownlive. You can follow me personally at Big P Zone on Twitter or Facebook. Just search Big P Zone. We also have another website called wideawakeamerica.com, and that's more of a wire website like the Drudge Report, where it brings in all kinds of sources from the alternative media and it puts it in one spot. I kind of touched on that earlier. We're really big on sharing information, and we really wanted to put a lot of good sources in one area so people could go check it out and have all this information on one spot. So if you want to check that out, wideawakeamerica.com, that's always there. And I just want to let you guys know I appreciate you guys even having me on tonight. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on, man. Keep doing what you're doing, dude.
Yeah.
It's appreciated. Same with you guys. Anytime you want to have me back, Kristan or otherwise, if you guys just want to work together or come join us on the Rundown Live, just stay in touch. Let me know.
Awesome. Sounds good, dude. Thanks. All right.